Hello there. This is my first tutorial video, so please bear with me. I'm going to show you how to make a sort of ombre drawing. This big blue one is the one I'll show you first, and then there'll be some more clips with the smaller Garfield-coloured one. So let's begin. This is me tearing the last sheet out of a moleskin art sketch album. You by no means need to use any specific type of paper for this. You can use a post-it note or printer paper. Whatever you have on hand will work. What's going to make it look good is how consistent you can keep your marks. To start, you'll draw 3 overlapping circles. I like to have them sort of off-center. Within each circle you'll draw smaller circles. I don't exactly make each of the smaller circles inside of them progressively smaller. I've actually made this type of drawing a lot, and I can never decide if I want to do that or if I just want them to be the same size. I think I usually go like half and half. They're a little bit smaller as they reach the center, but not really. How you make and place your circles is up to you. That's the part you'll need to use your intuition on. Once you've decided on that, it's really a matter of filling the rest of the drawing in. You also don't necessarily need to sketch them out. You could just go straight to the paper with a pen. But since this paper is larger, I decided to sketch it. This is about 7.5 by 7.5 inches. You also don't need to use square paper. I think this design looks just as good on rectangular sheets of paper. It's just that I use Instagram the most, so I've gravitated more towards square drawings. I also like the contrast between this design and paper. A square is sort of like this perfect thing, and then with this drawing I try to make things a little off-kilter, so they can complement each other better. The pen I'm using for this is a blue Muji gel pen. You can really use any pen you'd like. I'm not sure how well pencil or paint would work with this, but if that's all you have and you're bored enough to try, it's worth a shot. Next you'll erase if you need to, and then fill in the background. I always wait like several hours to erase because I'm overly cautious, so I don't actually know how quickly gel pens dry in general. For the background I fill it in with scribbles. Because this ink is a bit darker, you can't really make out the texture very well. If you stick around for the Garfield-coloured one, you'll be able to see that one better though. I try to keep the mark making for the background as even as possible. It may not make a difference in photographs, but it does in person. You could use whatever sort of texture you think would look better, but I prefer to do it this way because I can keep it more consistent. For the first inner circle, I do try to make it almost completely coloured in. I prefer the contrast to be as much as I can make it with whatever pen I'm using. You could also just colour it in rather than try to make impossibly tiny circles. When you make a drawing, you should always go by your own taste. That's always a factor in making your drawing as good as you can possibly make it. Not only for abstract stuff like this, but for anything. If your intuition is telling you to do it a certain way, you should go for it. I don't know if ombre is necessarily the right word for these drawings, but I've decided to stick with it. I enjoy doing these because each new one has its own sort of energy, if that makes sense. Obviously they all look pretty similar to each other though. How consistent I'm able to make the smaller circles has an effect on how the drawing turns out. Also, I did mess up on this. One of the rings was a little off, and so the smaller circles inside kind of go against the rhythm of the other smaller circles. In close-up it's obvious, but with the picture taken as a whole, it doesn't make too much of a difference. Where my finger is about to point out is what I was talking about. That's really just from the ring not being properly made. If it was shortened up on the left side, it'd flow more smoothly. But messing up is not such a big deal. It helps to learn from your mistakes. That's how you get better. Now for the Garfield-coloured drawing. This paper is about 2.5 inches by 4 inches. It's old paper that I found on Etsy. It's a Santa Fe Railroad notepad from Ivy in Maine. I got it to experiment with and haven't really used it much. It's nice paper, it's just that using old paper makes me nervous because it might not continue to hold up that well over time. This time I did the larger circles freehand. Because the paper is fairly small, it's easier to do that with. Overall, this drawing took me 2 hours to do at the most. I know the background only took about 30 minutes to fill in. The blue drawing is another story. I have no idea how long that actually took. I work on things at random and don't keep track of time very well. Also, I apologize for any awful angles that this video uses. I use a gooseneck phone holder thing to film, and it broke when I started these drawings. I have broken several things this week, all desk-related. I'm saddest about breaking my desk lamp, though. I've had it since I moved into this apartment 6 years ago. I might have even had it since college, I'm not really sure. It was an LED lamp, and using a regular desk lamp as a temporary replacement has been difficult. It gets a lot hotter with a regular light bulb. For ombre rectangular drawings, I usually make the top shape a circle, the second shape sort of like an in-between circle and oval, and the third shape an actual oval. I like for the drawings to follow the shape of the paper somewhat. You don't have to do that. Also, if you think it would look better as a square, you can just trim whatever paper you have. I do want to reiterate that you can use whatever material you'd like for this. I use gel pens for both drawings, but you could try this with a ballpoint pen or Sharpie if that's all you have. Same goes for paper. Grabbing something from your printer or binder will work just as well. Especially if you haven't drawn in a while or something, it's good to just get a drawing out. You don't need to drive yourself crazy researching and getting the best materials for what you want to do. You can just do it and figure out if you need something else once it's done. Although I doubt any of you are actually going to use this tutorial. It's okay. You can just use this video to sleep to or pass the time while you wait to leave the house for an appointment. That's what I do too. Looking back on this, I like this color a lot. I'm not really sure what else to call it besides Garfield. I guess mustard kind of fits. The package doesn't have colors listed, but it might in the parts that are in Japanese. I just can't tell. This came from Jet Pens. It's the Sarasa Vintage Color Gel Pen. They're 0.5 gel pens. They sell at least 2 styles of these because I have 2 different packs. One pack has earthier tones and the other is kind of like a muted rainbow. This pen came from the latter pack. The texture on the background is more noticeable for this drawing. I don't feel like that's a bad thing. I feel like it fits the drawing overall. I like doing this sort of swirling scribble as the texture. To me, it's like the foreground elements are swirling up out of it. Kind of like the little message thing in Magic 8 Balls. I think it adds like a sort of mystical quality to the drawings. That's it for this one. Hope you have a lovely day or had a lovely day and a lovelier night. Bye-bye, take care.